Thanks for joining the session today. Some of you were in the Racialized Creatives Working Together panel just before this. It was really great to have an opportunity to have that moderated discussion with Dr. Baines, a lot of the same panelists today, Sally, Tanya, Kadon. It was really powerful. We had a breakout session. We'll be sharing that kind of after the conference wraps. The intent is to come up with solutions and talk about what the path forward looks like together. But I think in order to understand what that path forward is, we kind of need to know who the actors are, what the work has, which thickets, which part of the forest has already kind of been macheted through. And some of the women on this panel today, or the Power Hour presentations, it's not a panel, sorry, we're going to invite you up one by one, and they're basically going to, starting with Tanya, tell us about the paths and the machetes that they've been using and give an overview of each of their institutions and organizations, which have been doing incredible work in the advocacy and policy space, as well as program space, making inroads for racialized creatives in our industry and really changing the course of some of the policy funding and program decisions that a lot of people in this room have benefited from, or as you'll find out, can benefit from. And so I think this is really an opportunity to listen, learn, and this isn't the end of it. Jump on a networking opportunity later this afternoon, or also tonight at the ball, and make a connection with any of these presenters. So first, we're going to start with Tanya. Tanya is the founder and executive director of the Reelworld Research Institute, and she's a multi-hyphenate. I'm going to break from the program. A multi-hyphenate who has been just changing the game, winning awards, and being amazing while looking good for 40 years. So I'm so excited to welcome her to the stage. Lots of awards. You can just read about her in the program. She's won awards as an actress, producer, but really what we're excited to hear about is your work at the Reelworld Screen Institute.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you very much. Now, Reelworld Screen Institute. I have never done a clicker thing before. This could be very dangerous for me. Oh, it moved. It's moving without me. So I founded this 23 years ago where nobody was talking about Black, Indigenous, Asian people, people of color working together. This was a new, groundbreaking concept, of which I thought, why doesn't everybody think this way? Because we're stronger in numbers, as has been said so many times. And the idea was to have, I started with a film festival, and the idea was that we could get people of color, get their films into a festival, get them awards so that they could actually take the next steps where they could get into other festivals, where they could access funding. Because at the time, if you wrote a grant for something, being able to say you screened at a festival helped you get those funding. So that was our way of moving around that barrier. Here are our board of directors, in case, so some of them are really amazing people. I'll give you a minute to study them. Anya McKenzie's with CBC, RT, of course, that you know. Roman has Channel Zero, so he was groundbreaking at the time when he was buying short films, when nobody was buying short films, and stockpiling them. Floyd Kane, of course, Ty Highland over at CBC. So we've got a great group. Sasha Lee Henry, you guys will definitely know about her, if you don't know about her already, because she's got a show that's launching on GEM, so she's amazing. Oh, I can look down here. Now I understand. It's all coming together. This is the staff. Now, I want you to understand that the first 10 years of Reelworld, I never had more than 3 people for the first 10 years. And up until 3 years ago, I never had more than 5 people working there. And now, this is our staff. Just in the last 3 years, has been a sort of an explosion. So thank you. They're an amazing group of people. And they work really hard because we have a lot of programs, a lot of things happening at Reelworld. So when you see all the things that we do at Reelworld, you will notice that we don't have enough staff, actually. So this year, November 1st to the 7th, will be the 23rd anniversary of Reelworld Film Festival. Let's process that. That'll be 23 years of screening only Canadian films. All our content is 100% Canadian films from Black, Indigenous, Asian, and people of color who are Canadian. The directors have to be Canadian. Sometimes people try to slide through of, I've got an actor in there. I'm like, no. And we've got a lovely, quote here from one of our filmmakers about what an absolute pleasure it was to be part of this festival. And Reelworld makes you feel held as a filmmaker artist and is invested in seeing you grow and thrive. Nobody comes to Reelworld and doesn't feel that they're included, they're part. We don't have any VIP section. There's no red ropes keeping people. If you turn up at Reelworld, everyone has access to you, and that was really important to us from day one. People felt like Reelworld was an oasis, that they had never gone anywhere. I mean, I knew what it was like growing up when you were the only one in the room who was a person of color. At Reelworld, you really feel the sense of community and who you're doing all that work for, and that part of the community that you want to be a part of. We have an Emerging 20 program. This is our 22nd year with this program. It's for screenwriters. We match you with story editors, and we find you story editors of color, because every part of Reelworld is not just about you, a person of color, it's about partnering with other people of color and training you to think that way. So it's a 6-month screenwriting program where you need to come in ready to work, because 6 months is not a long time. And a lot of screenwriters write a first draft and they're like, my script is ready. And I'm like, you got to write like 50 drafts of this. So you better like really want to write, because it's about polishing, and you have to keep polishing. And so they work. And then we actually have a partnership with ACTRA, where we get actors to read out the scripts. That way the writers can hear them on their feet, because then you got to go back and rewrite again, because sometimes your characters don't sound the way you think your characters might sound. So this has been an amazing program. Mustafa is one of our E20 people, and he really learned a lot, and his script is actually moving forward. So he's already in development, and this is part of what we want to do at Reelworld. We're not just about training you. In fact, I'd like to think that we're not about training you. We're really about getting you work, getting you job, how you actually make a living, how you succeed in this industry. That's really the key part of what we like to do. A year and a half ago, we got a really big fund through the federal government, did a whole thing for Black people. And so we were able to get, we submitted this program, which was about training Black casting directors, agents, managers, and film producers. And lo and behold, we got the grant. So last year was our first year. There were 14 cohorts, because we noticed we talk about creating infrastructure. We talk about the barriers. Casting directors and agents are a huge barrier for people of color, because a lot of times with agents, they'll have a roster of 50 people, of which 5 might be people of color. They don't want to take on too many because they think there's not enough work. Casting directors, it was like 99% of the casting directors in Canada are white people. There are almost no people of color. There's like 1 Black casting director, 1 Asian casting director. So this was really important for us. And here you've got Jennifer Irons, who is now a literary agent, first Black literary agent in Canada, actually, and she's just doing so well. And our second cohort started in March, so this year we have 16 people actually going through the program, and the funding is for 1 more year next year that we'll have 16. So God willing, there could be at least 10 casting directors in 3 years that you'll be able to bring your projects to. And the only way they'll get more successful is if you take your projects to them and hire them to do them. We have 2 producer programs. First, there's a producer program, which we just call the Reelworld Screen Institute Producer Program. And a lot of people apply for this program and don't get in the program, and they don't know why. And we try to let them understand this is not the program if your desire is to be a screenwriter. This is not the program if you really want to be an actor, or if you really want to be a director. We screen out those people. We're trying to create the next Damon Oliveras. We're trying to create people who only want to produce, because Clement Virgo wouldn't be Clement Virgo without Damon Olivera. So we need more just producers of color. It is hard work being a producer. And there's so many different kinds of producers, because you've got creative producers that need to be able to help a director and help a writer shape that script into what is sellable. And you're going to have your financial producers who need to know how to sell that project. So even at the original writer's stage, they're going to be advising you in, that scene is not going to work. We can't sell internationally this. We got to think about the domestic market. We've got to think, you need those producers. And it's a big part of what we do here in the producer program. The accelerator program, you have to be invited into. So if you've gone through the producer program and we feel that you are really ready for that next step, you are invited into the accelerator program. So that's how, so we don't put out a call for that one. Our Level Up program we've had in partnership with Rogers and with a specific show called Hudson and Rex. And so every year we choose 2 directors and 2 writers to actually work for a week on the show, get paid to work on the show. Each one of them get a week. And we only started the program 2 years ago, and already one of our writers was brought on into the writing room. So that's what we want to happen with them. And one of the directors also got to direct a show and be brought back for that. So this is the whole point of this, is to make sure they're getting that hands-on training, working with people who are serious. And Paul Pope has passed away in this past year, but he was really serious about wanting to have a program where he could bring people on and get them hired onto the show Hudson and Rex. And with Meridian Artists, which is a talent agency and literary agency in Toronto, we have something with them every year where they bring one paid apprentice from Reelworld in to do 4 weeks learning what it's like being a literary agent. And Christina Wong got it last year, and it was a great experience from her. We try to only do people who really want to become, literary or talent agents. But in the past, we've done writers who also learned, how does that work? When they can't get an agent, it's great for them to work within the agency and go, oh, now I know what I have to do to get the kind of agent I want. I didn't understand how it worked. I think what's great, and I hope everybody takes away, and what I try to teach everyone at Reelworld, is don't take things personally. People get very sensitive about, they didn't like my script, they didn't like my directing time. It's never usually about that, by the way. So once you learn to remove yourself from that, remove your ego, and try to figure out, how does my talent fit into the whole? How does my piece fit into what this whole group is trying to accomplish? I think that's always a better way to think. Of course, we do awards every year. We do 6 Trailblazer Awards. These were the 6 from last year. And we go to the website. We take nominations year round. Nominate people. We're surprised how few people nominate people. Jennifer Podemski, a wonderful Indigenous producer, actress, won the Award of Excellence last year. And Nick Davis, who's been with CBC, I want to say 20 some odd years, and has been behind the scenes working for diversity and working to open up CBC with very little recognition. We honored him with a Visionary Award last year. So we definitely look to nominate people. It's too late for this year, but start nominating now for the people we're going to choose next year. This just started last year, our Market Ready program. So these wonderful sponsors came. Oh, these aren't our sponsors. These are the markets. But we've got through Warner and through RBC and some of our other great sponsors, we've been able to take delegates now. We've taken them to Banff for the last year and this year. We took them to Cannes Film Festival. We took them to Prime Time. I think we took 17 people in total to Prime Time. Content Canada, Toronto International Film Festival. Content London, we took 8 people. So this is a very new thing for us in the last 2 years. But I think a lot of organizations are realizing you're actually going to have to take, send people to these markets. It's a key. You have to build relationships with people outside of your safe group. Our protocol guidelines, so we're coming to the end now. This is a research study that we started a year and a half ago through Women and Gender Equality. That's where we got the funding from. And this was all about Black, Indigenous, Asian women of color and the depiction of them over the years on Canadian screens. The protocol guideline, which will be launched in the next few months, is really for producers and broadcasters to have a better understanding of, it's not enough just to hire women of color behind the scenes. It's not enough just to put their characters on screen, because the stereotypes are still there. Something we're all fighting, because the real life consequences of those stereotypes is you and I and everybody just trying to make our way through the daily lives, and how those images on screen affect us negatively. So when you talk about sexual harassment and sexual assault, women of color are some of the highest group having to deal with that, because over the many 100 years, they have depicted us in such ways that we're over-sexualized, and, you know, they're always just, I don't want to mention the stereotypes because it's a stereotype. So you all know it because you live life and you know what it's like making your way through. So we're hoping this is something that broadcasters and producers will use when they're thinking about, I think of something Rosie Perez said in an NPR interview recently. She said, when you're a white woman and your character is a prostitute, they give you all this backstory about how you became a prostitute, the hard life you live and the abuses maybe that you went through. But when you're a woman of color, you're just a prostitute. Somehow you just arrive and there's no story behind that. I think it was, isn't there a clip, one more last? I think there's a last slide that's not there, but it was, oh, the Access Reelworld, which is our database. So, because I think my time's running out, right? I can't tell. When did I start? I thought it would be a countdown from 15. So please go to the Access Reelworld. This is the database. Hire people from the database, but put yourselves on the database. People are looking for you. They need to find you. So make sure, and of course, donate. Don't forget to donate, whether it's your time, whether it's money. And the call to action, go to Reelworld and see all the things that we're doing and share with others. I feel there's really a lack of sharing and education about all the different programs that are happening across Canada, and that's dependent on you sharing that with the people that you know. And thank you so much. And I'm going to back up.